So what do we got today? This is something I picked up at Boeing Surplus a decade or more ago. I live up near Seattle. And of course, Boeing is here, and they used to have a surplus store that was open to the public that would occasionally have all kinds of interesting stuff. I bought several Tektronix scopes there that I've since given away. Just various bits of this and that. And this is one of those things I came across out there, and it was obvious looking at it what it was meant to be. Of course, we have a power switch. We have a zone alert, so we know it makes noise. It says alarm set or off. There is a count up, count down, a reset, and of course a start stop, and a display for minutes and seconds. And of course, these are rotary switches. We can set a time, start it, and it'll count down and sets the alarm off. Very simple. When I picked this up, it was not working. It's hand-built construction inside, which we'll take a look at. The pins on the TTL ICs were so corroded that it just didn't have a chance of working. I pulled the ICs, cleaned the pins by hand, put it back together and got it working. You know, there's some kind of tag here on the side. Get you a bit more light. There is a QC stamp in there, but the dates, whatever was there, are long gone. On the back, there's an LM390K used as voltage regulator, of course a fuse. Take a little look inside. There's just an old school transformer there. Actually has cloth insulation on the wires, which gives a hint to its date. And perhaps in there you can see a hint of the printed circuit board with some socketed logic. Well, you know, it's an interesting piece. Fits into the collection of just weird old stuff that I have. I've taken the two screws out of the top. The little lip here gives a hint, along with the piano hinge along the back. The top actually hinges open, and we can take a look down inside. We have a power supply board there, it looks like. It's got a few filter capacitors on it. They are very old capacitors. I believe they're paper. There's a 10 or 15 turn trimmer pot there and a socket. There is no surprise. There above that red capacitor is a 555 IC, which I am assuming produces the time base, and I would think that the trimmer cap adjusts the time base. Down deep, where you probably can't see it, below the two capacitors, those filter caps, is a diode bridge. There is some TTL logic, I believe, there in those three sockets, though I could be wrong. There is, of course, the Vero board down in there with socketed TTL kind of buried. It is wire wrap wire into those two headers, and a little bit heavier wire off to the headers to the right. Taking a look inside, you can see that the LED displays are again on a wire wrap board. Down below you can see the back sides of the rotary encoders, or not rotary encoders, they're actually rotary switches. And of course down inside it's dusty, there's a corrosion. You know, it's an interesting build. It was obviously hand built by somebody to serve some kind of a timing purpose. I'm sure we will never know what that purpose is for, beyond counting up or counting down to set an alarm. You know, there was an attempt at wire looming in there. You may be able to see the little bits of looming tied around the bundles of wire. You know, they've done a nice job with that. So with the front panel removed, you get a little bit better view of the zone alert, the switch, you know, the rotary switches, the wire wrapped 7-segment display board, and of course the TTL logic hidden back in there. Looking at date codes on that TTL logic, I see date codes from 1970 to 74. That does give a pretty good hint at the age. I see more 74, 45th week 74. I don't know if you can see it. 22nd week of 1975. I did find a set of peanut shells inside of here, and my guess is this corrosion in the corner here is where a mouse was probably urinating inside of the box. Sad. It does speak to wherever this was stored, which is actually my fault. I know where I actually had it stored at one time as I ended up moving between houses. This was stored in an outside storage facility. It's a shame I did that to it. It does happen. The transformer is a 6.3 volt center tap 2 amp. So possibly, an old filament transformer. Again, it would be the age, based on looking and seeing the cloth insulation wrapped around the wires. We'll go ahead and power this guy up and see if it still works. So, the unit's plugged in. We'll go ahead and turn the power on. In this case, it's a 3-prong plug, making it a little harder to do the little tap test you see me do before. Hopefully we won't see smoke and fire. Quick comment, I did look in more detail at the electronics inside. The corrosion that I assume is from a small rodent urinating in that corner is not spread to the electronics. It's completely isolated to the metal case. It's actually a great example of why you don't store delicate stuff like this in an outbuilding or in a shed. I had no choice at that point in time. It is what it is. I feel bad about it, but like I said, I guess it is what it is. So let's flip the power switch up and see what happens. So we do have some displays. We know the power supply is at least live. There's a little reset button down here. Get my thumb on it. It reset to the input time. Let's go ahead and arm the alarm. Start it running. And it's counting down. 4. Oh, and I'm sure you can hear that. So it is toggling the little zone alert. It looks like it needs to be manually reset. Let's take a closer look at these 7-segment displays just because they're so beautiful. Hopefully you can see in that video that the segments are actually multi-segments. I can actually see that there appears to be probably 3. See if I can get the camera a bit steadier here. Get it to focus. Looks to me like there's probably 3 LEDs per each of the little dashes that build up the segments. That's not uncommon on older LEDs. The early LEDs were not very bright, and so they would bond in multiple LEDs per segment. To give you enough brightness you could actually see it. These are, in my opinion, really pretty. Let me get it running again here, and we'll watch it count down. Apparently I don't have it started, which I don't. And we've counted down to 0. I guess we can set the count to up. Oh, and it just takes off counting up. So it doesn't look like you can give it a start window to count up. It always starts counting up from 0. It's an interesting piece. With 4 LED displays, it could make an interesting conversion to a clock, although I hate to sacrifice this. Everything being wire wrapped inside is, of course, somebody designed this and laid it out and wire wrapped everything by hand. Somebody put some effort into it. Might make an interesting little counter to keep track of how long I shoot in video segments, though I'm not sure exactly why I'd need to do that, but interesting stuff. So I guess this is going to be another pretty short video. We'll watch it roll over here to 1 minute. And there it rolled over to 1 minute. Very nice. Let's stop it. And I'm curious, let's set it to 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8. So I'm going to go ahead. So I've set it to 8888 because that will test all of the segments in all 4 displays. We'll let it count down. We'll reset it. And as you can hopefully see here, all of the segments actually light up. It looks like all the LEDs in all the segments are active. Very nice. Interesting little bit of kit. If I was going to actually use this for anything, I would of course go in and verify the power supply. Make sure it was set to 5 volts, being TTL logic. It's of course a 5 volt power supply. I didn't see any kind of CMOS in there. Maybe even attempt to tweak it to calibrate it if it needed it. But honestly, I'm not going to go that far. Well, I hope you enjoyed this short video. And I'll look at something that was hand-built out at Boeing. Looking like, based on the date codes, in the mid-70s would be my guess. I'm sure it was used for something. Maybe you've even flown in an aircraft that this was part of the construction for. Talk to you next time. Bye.